Get ready for the greatest roast of all time, the Roast of Tom Brady, a Netflix live event happening May 5th. Hosted by Kevin Hart, the 7-time world champion gets his cleats held to the fire by famous friends and frenemies on an unforgettable night where everything is fair game. Tune in on May 5th at 5 p.m. Pacific time for the Roast of Tom Brady, live only on Netflix.
You ready?
Showtime.
On May 3rd, summer starts with The Fall Guy.
Let's do it later.
Let's drink a spicy margarita.
Make some bad decisions.
Yes!
Audiences are falling in love with the most entertaining film of the year.
Fall Guy.
Fall Guy?
Fall Guy.
That's what the poster said.
See Ryan Gosling and Emily Blunt in the movie critics say exists to make you happy.
Trying to make it out?
Nope.
Because I don't either. It's not what I'm into right now.
What are you into?
Talking.
Yeah.
The Fall Guy. Only in theaters May 3rd. Rated PG-13.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. From the launch your online shop stage, all the way to the we just hit 1 million orders stage. No matter what stage you're in, Shopify's there to help you grow. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/special offer, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/special offer.
Hello and welcome to the Paddock and The Pavilion with me, your host, Stephen Wallace. After part 1 of Embracing the Challenge, a horse racing podcast with Hermione Drummond-Murray, we are back to cricket today and the growing world of seniors cricket. Our main guest is England over-60s captain Richard Merriman, who has just come back from the heat of a World Cup in India. In this podcast, Richard talks about the 12-nation competition based in Chennai, where England reached the final. Richard reflects on the challenges the squad faced on the subcontinent, the England stars of the tournament, and the charitable work the England squad did for the local community alongside Bat for a Chance and the Barmy Army. You will also hear all about his own cricketing journey, which has seen him mix it with some of the legends of the game. Plus, as it's a World Cup year for the over-70s in July and August 2024, you will be hearing from the England captain John Evans, a previous guest on the Paddock and the Pavilion. Welcome to the Paddock and the Pavilion, Richard.
It's a delight to be with you, Stephen.
How are you? You must be getting used to the cold weather now.
Well, I'm wrapped up here in my fleece, looking out of the window at it raining yet again. And with no prospects, all of our league games have been cancelled for this weekend and pushed into September. And it's looking highly unlikely that we'll be playing our first county championship game in the over 60s on Tuesday. It's got to be a significant change. It's very, very damp in this part of the world.
Well, in this podcast, we are going to talk about cricket, and we're going to discuss the England over-60s World Cup campaign, your own cricketing career. You've mixed with quite a few of the legends of the game, and we're also going to talk about the future of the over-60s. I know you've got an Ashes tour at the end of this year, and also we've got a guest, John Evans, the captain of the over-70s, who's going to be talking about a World Cup that's being held in England in July and August this year. But before we go into detail about the World Cup and the tournament, I just wanted to know how you reflect on the defeat in the final against Australia by 8 wickets.
Yeah, we chose to have a very bad day in the final. We were outplayed in all 3 departments of the game. We never really got momentum into our innings. We didn't field well. We struggled to bowl our lines and lengths, and Australia deservedly won the game. But I think it's out of defeat that you can often have the greatest learnings, and there's been some real good lessons for us to take from that. All of the players have had chance to reflect and respond in a written form to pro forma that we sent out, asking them about the whole competition, both on and off the field. And as a result of that, we're very keen to address the issues that, are part of us going forwards. The Australians have raised the bar to another level. And I mean, when you're being dismissed with diving catches, when people are diving forwards to take the catch at 60 plus, those people can field. When people are putting it flat from the boundary, right in over the top, they can field. And if we are going to go forwards and take them on, as we are for the Grey Ashes down under in November, December, then we've got to at least match them with the fitness and fielding abilities. We'll certainly match them with the skills, with bat and ball, but the fielding is now going to become a real focus of attention for us with our trials coming up. And in the matches we've got against Wales and Scotland, before we head into the series with Pakistan. So historically, we've always worked on the premise of having two of the three skills. But our new mantra going forward now is that you have got to be fit and agile and mobile as a fielder and have at least one of the other skills to the highest possible level. So slight emphasis of change, but an emphasis of change which is going to be needed if we're going to take on the original or the inaugural World Cup winners Pakistan and the current world champions Australia. Before we move on, it shows then the improvement in seniors cricket, doesn't it? I think it's phenomenal, the growth. I was lucky to make my debut in 2019, and if you had 20 people around the ground watching, that's all you had. The matches weren't necessarily played on any particularly famous grounds, although having said that, the final ODI was played at Hove. The reality is the standard has risen massively, and the numbers participating in the county championship. We've now got 3,500 registered players in seniors cricket across the country. And I guess, again, if we went back, with the competition originally starting, I think, in 2009 with half a dozen southern counties, you can see the growth has been exponential, and I'm sure will continue to do so. And the organisation of these competitions is excellent, isn't it? Oh, undoubtedly so. I mean, the home organisation in the county championship is a major undertaking, but is run expertly. Very few hiccups. There always will be the occasional things that occur which somebody's not thought, or the management haven't thought about, but the reality is that the seasons pass through extremely well. And now internationally, with the creation of the International Masters Cricket, which is a worldwide organisation, the way that tournaments are run at 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, again, is taking on a very professional approach and look. Coming soon, discover the legendary batter Richard dismissed in a 1990 NatWest Trophy tie for Dorset. If you like the show, click the subscribe button on your podcast outlet to ensure you won't miss any future episodes. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Google, Spotify, and YouTube. Let's return to Richard to find out the name of that legendary batter.
Now let's talk about your own career. You're born in Loughborough in November 1958. Where did you first start playing cricket?
Interesting there. You've picked up on Wikipedia, haven't you? Because
Cricket Archive. Cricket Archive, yeah.
Cricket Archive, was it? Okay, because that actually has my birthday wrong. I'm an October birthday. But my father was a very keen cricketer. He played for Loughborough Town for many years. He was actually born next to the ground. And he was also a coach, my first coach, very influential in Loughborough Cricket Association and with Leicestershire Cricket. And so from the earliest days, one of the earliest photographs of me on the lawn at home is holding a cricket bat. But I've played my first game, I'll remember it distinctly, for Loughborough Town when I was 14 in the first team, and Dad opened the batting and got a paltry 9. He had me in at 7 and I ended up with 20 odd not out. So I remember that very well. Against Nuneaton, John Whitehouse was the ex-Warwickshire player, was in charge of Nuneaton at the time. So there were some nice words said after the game, and ever since, played club cricket and thoroughly enjoyed it.
Well, by 1976, if Cricket Archive's correct, you were playing for Leicester Twos.
Yeah, 76. A young Master Gower lived in Loughborough as well. His father was registrar at the university. And so he and I would travel over to Leicester regularly. And it was probably at about that time I realised I wasn't quite good enough because, the quickies would come on and I'd be ducking and diving and weaving, and there would be David blowing on his nails before he caressed it beautifully through the offside or flicked it off his legs elegantly. And you suddenly realise, oh, my goodness, this is a player. And David, as we all know, had the most illustrious and fantastic career that he did. But it made me realise that I wasn't perhaps as good as I thought I might have been.
Well, that must have been a joy to have played with David Gower, batted with him. Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, at Loughborough Town and with Leicestershire seconds, it wasn't very often in the second 11 because it didn't take him long to get into the first team. And for him to forge the career that he did with both Leicestershire, England and obviously Hampshire latterly.
And you also played for Derbyshire seconds?
Yeah, I did. Basically, I got into a scenario where we'd taken on the likes of Michael Holding at Old Trafford, and I'd attempted to hook him a couple of times, and Clive Lloyd at the end of the game said, look, you can't take these guys on unless you're really at it. And in the end, I started getting pinned by people, and Grandma could have bowled at me and I'd have thought she was quick. And so ultimately I sort of dropped away from Leicestershire. But then Phil Russell saw me performing, and he took me into the indoor school at Derby with a bucket of golf balls and a helmet, and said, right, here you are. Just keep your eye on the ball, and no bat, no gloves. Just keep your eye on the ball and sway out of the way. And I got confidence from that, and the helmet gave me everything. And I suddenly was back, and absolutely loved my time at Derbyshire. Some great players at the time the county had. And so it was interesting, a contrast from Illingworth's Leicestershire to the Derbyshire of Barry Wood and Jeff Miller and John Wright, Peter Kirsten, and young lads like Kim Barnett as well, and Johnny Morris, Paul Newman, a good mate of mine. It was a great time to be involved with Derbyshire, and I loved it.
So was there ever a chance you could have gone pro, or?
Not really. Ultimately, again, I think by the time at I was 22, 23. I'd gone to Loughborough University to read sports science and to do an education degree, and teaching was the pathway for me. So, it was fantastic to have the opportunities. But then going into teaching gave me a great chance then to get involved in minor counties cricket. And I think it was 13, 14 seasons I had in minor counties with Dorset and with Cambridgeshire, and maintained a passion for the game because I hadn't quite made it.
Yeah, well, you had a successful minor counties, we call them national counties now, 61 minor county championships appearances, 2,925 runs as on Crick Archive, and you played 5 List A games where you really mixed with the stars, didn't you? I mean, you played against, I've just written down 4 here, legends of the game, Viv Richards, Joel Garner, Malcolm Marshall and Gordon Greenwich in those NatWest Trophy matches.
Absolutely so. And Viv won't remember this, but...
Yeah, you got him out, didn't you?
I got him out. One of my filthy leg spinners, he top-edged and was caught by John Hall of Millie Champion Hall Batmakers. And, it was... I can remember at the time, the fact it went on to... what was it called? Teletext on...
Teletext, yeah.
Yeah, on BBC.
CFAX.
CFAX, that's right. And
we're showing our age now, yeah.
Yeah, I was getting calls from people saying they couldn't believe what they were seeing. It was a special day, but opening against Marshall was something else. Garner, loved batting against him because anything that he dropped in short just went well above my head. But happy memories of that. And we got Gordon Greenwich out first ball. Didn't know what to do then, so that brought Chris Smith in to join his brother Robin, and I think they ended up then with about 370 for one. So happy memories, happy days, certainly. Must
have been an experience facing big bird bowling.
Yeah, I took him on, hooked him for 4. He went for it again the next ball. I hooked it, got dropped by deep square. So I thought, well, the next one's going to be the Sandshoe delivery. And lo and behold, it was. I missed it. I was plumb LBW, but it was given as a no ball. So he got wound up, got excited about it, and tried it again next ball. And I hit him back for 4, straight back past him for 4. So he was getting wound up. Didn't help us at all because I think he ended up with 5 or 6 wickets at the other end. Guys sort of being caught at short leg, caught in the gully off the gloves, etc., etc. So I wound him up, but it didn't help the team in any sense or shape or form.
It's such a shame that the minor counties or national counties don't play the first-class counties nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it was such a privilege and honour to take those chaps on. And although in those 5 games we never won one, the game against Glamorgan when Viv was playing and Hugh Morris also, he got 100 as well that day. I think they got 270, we got 260. And, we were in the game. We were right in the game. And Viv actually came on and bowled, and he was the difference between the two sides with the ball. And ultimately, they scraped home. But, it was the chance to play against those players on quality grounds and to just test yourself against them was always a great privilege and an honour. It was also at times daunting because we were, more times than not, heavily defeated, as most minor counties were. But there was always that chance that you could do it, and 1 or 2 did do it.
And the crowds as well, and the atmosphere, taking the cricket round the country, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely so. And I think it's a great shame that, that the guys do not have that opportunity to do it any longer. Great shame.
Moving on, how then did you first get introduced to playing seniors cricket? Because I know you played over 50s as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I started the over 50s with Shropshire. I was headmaster of a prep school in Shropshire at the time. And John Foster, who was then became the England over 60s captain, invited me along to play. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then when I moved across to become headmaster at Foremark Hall, the prep school for Repton, I swapped my allegiance then to Derbyshire. We had a phenomenal Derbyshire 50s side, and we won the county championship. I think it was 3 and 4 years. I played in 2 of those finals, and it was great. A great insight into what was still possible at our ages. And as long as you keep yourself fit, physically and mentally, it's a great game to be part of, and it tests you. And you're up against guys who've got great experience. They know how to bowl a line and a length. They know how to get the ball to different parts of the field, etc. And as a consequence, when 60 came up, it was natural to swap across to the 60s and Derbyshire 60s. And as I say, in that same season, I got my England call up from John Foster again, who, as I say, that by that stage was the captain of England 60s.
At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every home run, every hit, every inning, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. Whether it's a walk-off grand slam or a base hit to center field. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every home run, every hit, every inning, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. Whether it's a walk-off grand slam or a base hit to center field. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every home run, every hit, every inning, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. Whether it's a walk-off grand slam or a base hit to center field. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Let's talk about the tournament in India, which featured a tie, scores over 300. You had a former World Cup match winner, Edo Brandes, playing in the tournament. You had a final, which we've already mentioned, against Australia. One of your batsmen scored 3 centuries, I believe, Monty Douglas, and you were also on YouTube.
Yeah, it was phenomenal. And this goes back to what we were saying earlier about the growth of the seniors cricket. The standard just gets ever higher. Edo Brandes, the chicken farmer, as many will remember him. He only took 1 wicket during the World Cup, which was interesting, and that was me.
Well, you got Graham Gooch out, I think, in the World Cup, didn't you?
He did. Yeah, he did. So, yes, to be playing, we went out there believing that many of the wickets would be quite slow, low, but we actually found some very hard flat tracks. Finger spinners really struggled to get any turn, but the likes of Marcus Young did exceptionally well with his wrist spin and got bounce off the wickets. So, yes, it was great to play at some fabulous venues. The hosting was absolutely tremendous. The hospitality from the Indians, you couldn't fault in any way. They were just so pleased to have us there. And the support for us was phenomenal, and it was infectious. I mean, there were a couple of nights that Paul, as manager, and myself went out and found ourselves in restaurants, and the next thing, people have got their phones out showing us pictures of ourselves and wanting pictures with their baby. It was like being pros almost. At such a late age, really. It was phenomenal to see the reaction to the game, and to get to play at the Chepauk Stadium as well, home of Chennai Super Kings and Madras Cricket Club, was something extraordinarily special, and one thing that we'll always remember.
Are you aware in India of how popular cricket is the moment you get off the plane almost?
Absolutely. I mean, we went out in our England travel gear, and straight away people are looking at you, pointing to you. It is the biggest game, and people just absolutely are, totally wanting to see it, be engaged with it, talk to cricketers. It's just phenomenal.
Now, you were in a group with New Zealand, United States, Canada, Zimbabwe, and South Africa. You won all 5 of your games. They were over a short period of time as well.
Yeah, 9 games in 16 days. And to do that in sort of 34 degrees heat and humidity of sort of 80% or whatever it was challenging. And fitness really did tell. The Aussies had their one bad day against the West Indies. We just chose to have our one bad day in the final. And because up until that point, we'd played some great cricket, some really positive cricket. We went out there with the mantra of epic, the E being about energy and enthusiasm, the P about being positive and purposeful and progressive in everything that we were doing, and the IC being intelligent cricket. And for the vast majority of it, we did do that extremely well. And then, as I say, the final, we just didn't come to the party, I'm afraid.
You beat Sri Lanka in the semi-final. What about, did you rest days, or were you travelling a lot?
Well, it was all based within the city of Chennai, but Chennai is a significantly large and expanding city, hugely populated. I think the population now is greater than London. And so our games started at 9:30 in the morning. So we always wanted to be at the grounds for 8:30 at the latest. So on some occasions, you were getting up when it was still dark, having breakfast, getting on the coach at 6:30, 7:45, 7:00 to get through the traffic to get to the ground. So, it was a challenge in that sense, but worth every element of it.
I know you made good use of your, is it 18-man squad as well?
Yeah, 18-man squad. We tried to rotate because we knew that the conditions were going to be extremely challenging. We knew there was always a risk of illness. It's India can be a challenging place in that regard. And unfortunately for one of the squad, he was ill from the second game onwards. So that was disappointing for Simon. As a keeper, put a lot of pressure also on Steve Aston as the other keeper that he ended up having to keep in 7, I think it was, of the 9 games. A task he did extremely well. He's a very fit man and very, very capable wicketkeeper. But 45 overs of 6 squat thrusts and over, concentrating was a challenge, but he did extremely well.
And who were the players? We've already mentioned Monty Douglas. Who were the players in the England team that were the standout players?
Monty was phenomenal. I mean, to score 3 centuries is outstanding. To do them back to back, I doubt that there's many people listening, or indeed many players, who have ever scored 3 consecutive centuries. And he did it in such an aggressive and belligerent style. He was absolutely first class. Marcus Young, who's been mentioned before, he did an outstanding job as well with the ball, with his leg spin. Steve Aston, as I've said, he was the leading wicket keeper with the number of dismissals that he had. So those three stood out. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it was a huge squad team effort, and everybody played their part whenever they were called upon, really and truly. So yes, I would say squad performance was the most important thing about it.
And I would imagine very few players, unlike yourself, had played in India before.
Yeah, Mel Hussain had played out there, obviously. I mean, his family were brought up in Chennai. He and Nasser played for Madras Cricket Club. And so he was familiar not only with cricket in India, but also Madras Cricket Club and Chennai. But that was it. The rest, I think a couple had been on holiday to see some of the great sights of India, but not actually played cricket before. So yeah, it was a real eye opener for everybody.
The over 60s also like to get involved in the community. Can you let listeners know what you did while you were on tour? Yeah,
this time we brought out equipment to some of the street children of Chennai. We also were supported by the Barmy Army in that regard, and it was great to have their support. But particularly with the street families and street children that we did some work with, tremendous organisation, Karunalaya. The people who look after these young people and give them a chance of life are phenomenal. It was a hugely humbling experience to go to their centre, and we actually played a bit of cricket with them. Their team a few years ago had won the World Cup for street cricket, and their captain, who'd raised the trophy at Lord's, for it was played in England that year, came along and joined us, and we were able to give him some kit as well so that he can continue to play club cricket in Chennai. So yes, we like to do this. When we were in Barbados for the Carib Cup, we worked with the primary school. We worked with Passage Road Youth. We worked with CO Williams, who are the big employers there. Played a tape ball game under floodlights with them as well. So trying to put something back into the community, because cricket has given us such a great life. As we've said, it's taken us around the world. We've played with and against the best. And it's a chance for us to give something back and hopefully inspire some youngsters to give it a go and see whether they can, end up representing their country or having other opportunities as a result of playing this great game.
Yeah, I bet when you first started playing senior cricket, you never thought you'd be captain in England.
Absolutely. I mean, I've said it before, I had the dream as a 15, 16-year-old when, the possibilities of a professional career were there. I was playing England schools and, you dream of getting awarded your cap at Lord's and going out and scoring 100 against the Aussies. Instead of doing that at 20, I had to wait until I was 60, but it's a huge honour. I'm absolutely thrilled that I've done it. And I know my dad from above would have been incredibly proud of me, as was my mother, who at the time was still alive. So, yeah, it's a great honour.
With less tour games, I think with clubs now, it must be fantastic to actually go on tour.
Touring is a great experience, isn't it? I mean, we'll all have had tours, whether it be down to the southwest or over to the East Anglia or wherever it is, or whether it is to Dubai now or to Malta or to some teams are going out now to Croatia and playing on the island of Vis, and there's an Estonian team now. The destinations that clubs can go to, that pickup sides, nomadic sides can go to, is phenomenal. Of course, there's all the great cricketing nations, and to play in a World Cup in India, oh my goodness, it doesn't get better than that.
Well, one player who is going to play in a World Cup in 2024 is the England over-70s captain, John Evans, and I caught up with him last week, and this is what John had to say. Hello, John. Are you fit and well?
At the moment, Stephen, yes. Yeah. Of course, the season hasn't started yet, so just a bit of golf here and there and a bit of cycling. But yeah, I'm okay, thank you.
Have you had any nets yet, though?
No. The indoor nets for Gloucestershire are sort of on a Wednesday when I'm on grandad duty. And to be honest, I'm not, because I don't bowl, going to battle towards Cheltenham for an hour and a half and then having 10 minutes batting, it's not the best. I'm probably going to have a net on Saturday with the club. There's a new facility in Gloucester that they're going to use, and there's not going to be any outdoor cricket. I can't see any cricket, in Gloucestershire for a couple of weeks, to be honest, Stephen. So I've never been a massive one for indoor nets anyway, because it's such a difference when you go out in early season wickets and you end up, holing out the cover. So I just sort of wait for the outdoor nets to come, really.
You have a World Cup to look forward to for the over-70s in 2024. But firstly, I wanted to ask you about what you make of the England over-60s team who played in India.
Yeah, I watched with a lot of interest, actually. I had a couple of friends playing for the Welsh team, and a county colleague of mine, Ed Gordon-Lennox, was the vice-captain of the side. Unfortunately, it didn't go quite so great for Ed with the bat. I mean, normally he's a real gun batsman, but didn't quite go for him this time. I know he contributed with about three brilliant run-outs, but... so I was watching with interest and a little bit of envy. It must be quite an experience to go to India to do a World Cup with everything that's involved with that. Yeah.
Well, turning then to your World Cup, you haven't got to go to India. You've only got to go to England, I believe. What can you tell us all about the dates, venues, and information about the World Cup?
It starts on I think it's the 28th of July, a Sunday, and all the venues are around the home counties because all the teams are staying in London for obvious reasons. And so, us and Wales will have an interesting problem of how we're going to sort of do the 2 weeks, really, because obviously people from overseas will have a hotel for that 2 weeks. But, I don't know what we'll do. That's still got to be decided for the lucky 16 who are chosen to represent us.
Well, you've answered one of my questions. There's a squad of 16. How many teams are in the competition?
There are 7, including ourselves. It's Australia, New Zealand, India, Sri Lanka, Canada, Wales, and ourselves. So there's 6 matches, and for those 2 teams that are fortunate enough to win enough of them, there's a final on Sunday. I think it's the 11th of August at John Paul Getty's ground at Worsley Park.
That's Wormsley. That's a fantastic.
Oh, is it Wormsley?
Wormsley. Yeah, I've been there to watch a ladies' game, a fair break game there. So it's a fantastic ground to play at.
I think also the end of World Cup meal and get together is also there. I presume they've got marquees and things. So that's quite exciting, really.
Yeah, something to look forward to this summer. Have you played against many of the other teams? I know you played against Australia.
No, this will be the first time anybody has played against anyone else. I think the Aussies have played against the Kiwis in the local Australian competition. But as far as I'm aware, this is the first over 70 games against any of the other teams, apart from, of course, Wales. We played Wales on a fairly regular basis.
And how many overs aside?
45.
So it's the top two of a group of 7 that will go through to the final?
Yes, that's right.
And warm-up games for England over 70s?
We've got trials, but the warm-up games will be a little bit difficult. I think, and probably we'll try and get together in some nets for when the final squad is selected. But we've got a first trial chairman's 11 versus the England 11 on the 5th of May at Banbury, weather permitting. I've got to say it's probably a bit doubtful at the moment if this rain keeps up. And then the following week, we're going to my club at Froster in Gloucestershire, and Gloucestershire and West Country All-Stars are playing in an England 11. So all the people, there's about 30 players up for the trials. They'll all have those 2 trials, and then obviously we'll look at their performances in the county games, and our 2 selectors, Chris Lowe and Chris Watkins, will sort of rule the roost over those guys, and it'll be competitive.
Everyone will want to play in a World Cup, won't they?
Absolutely, yeah. There is a gap in the over 70s national championships for 2 weeks, but unfortunately, the over 60s one will be still going ahead. So many of the players, myself included, would probably still be involved with playing in over 60s, and that'll be the knockout stages. But obviously, I think everybody will choose to play for an England side over representing their over 60s county. That's what we're hoping anyway.
It should be a great advert for seniors cricket, though.
Yeah, I think it will be, and it's exciting, really, and the fact that other countries are buying into it as well gives you real encouragement for the future. And our setup's just getting stronger and stronger. We've got guys who've just made 70, and one of the guys, Marcus Young, was one of the stars in the over 60s World Cup, but he's actually also hit 70 now. So he's one of the ones who's there for selection too, which clearly makes it strong.
So he's going to possibly play in 2 World Cups in the same year.
I would think it's extremely likely. Yes.
Well, thank you very much, John, for joining us on the Paddock and the Pavilion. Hopefully, catch up with you again in the summer, and with luck, I'll come along to watch one of your World Cup matches.
That'd be great, Stephen. Yeah, no problem at all. Thanks for talking. Okay, cheers.
Richard, what's your reaction to what John had to say?
I think it just highlights what we've been saying earlier about the growth in the game. For seniors, the number of people who are continuing to play the game. I noticed even the other day that there's now an England over 80s hockey team. But the cricket, it's phenomenal, isn't it? That they've got this great opportunity, 7 countries involved, coming from different parts of the world, teams that they've not played against before. Obviously, with it, Wales and England and possibly the Aussies and New Zealanders, they've got a little bit of knowledge of each other. But to be playing against the Sri Lankans or the Indians for our chaps, again, must be a dream come true. And I wish them the very best of luck. I think they've got a great chance of being crowned world champions. I know the Aussies will think they have as well, but the last Silver Ashes last summer, our 70s were emphatic winners. John's got a great squad, and And, we've mentioned Marcus already. He could be, as John said, first guy to play in both the 60s and the 70s World Cup and in the same year. He's remarkably fit, is Marcus, and a highly talented bowler. So exciting times for John and his squad, and we wish them every success and hope that they'll, bring home the trophy.
Do you think you'll get down to watch some of the games?
I sincerely hope so. It'd be great, certainly, to be able to get to Wormsley. It's a magical cricket ground, super place to play. We've got an England side playing the Vatican there as well. The Vatican have a team of priests from around the world, and an England 60s team is going to play them at Worsley as well. So, yes, it'll be fabulous to get down there, hopefully see the England boys in the final there, and to see them, as I say, bring home the trophy.
Well, thanks for that. What about the future? We've mentioned it a bit already on the podcast, the future for the over 60s. You mentioned you're playing Pakistan this summer.
We've got 5 ODIs against Pakistan. They're being led by Salim Malik, who many of the listeners will know as one of the greats of Pakistan cricket. He's bringing the squad across at the early part of July. We're focusing our fixtures in the north with matches at iconic grounds like Southport and Birkdale and Littleborough, but possibly the most iconic of them all, Bradford Park Avenue, which will be the chap who owns the ground reckons there'll be 3,000 to 5,000 people there for the game, which will be phenomenal again if it is. I keep using that word tonight, I've realised, phenomenal, but that's truly the case.
And then at the end of the year, you've got the Ashes to look forward to, the Grey Ashes. We've
also got a couple of games against Scotland, game against Wales. As I say, there's the game with the Vatican. We've also got Western Australia coming across to play a series of counties and an England A side. We are still hopeful that India will also be here in the second half of the summer for a series of ODIs as well. And then, yes, as you say, November down to Australia to defend the Ashes.
And how many matches do you play in the Ashes?
It will be 5 ODIs again. I think we're looking at 15 games in total. The schedule is still in its draft format, but it looks as though we're going to start off in Brisbane, down to Sydney and Melbourne, down to Adelaide from there, and then across to Western Australia. And with any luck, one of our games will be on the Wacker.
Oh, fantastic. A ground I've been to many times to watch England lose in test matches. So we always lost in Perth.
Well, if you come along to watch us, may you not bring that luck. May you bring a winning occasion to us.
What about the future for Richard Merriman? Where will you be playing your cricket this summer, apart from the England over 60s?
Well, with Derbyshire, of course, but I'll still be playing my club cricket with Burton in the Derbyshire League. Still thoroughly enjoy that. So, yes, play as much as we can. My father stopped playing at 63 and told me in his latter years, and he carried on coaching until he was in his 80s. He said he had too many years as a spectator. So now, with the opportunities that we have to continue playing the game, this fabulous game, for as long as possible, let's, for our mental and physical health, continue to do so. And let's hope that we're blessed with that maintenance of health that allows us to continue, because being with teammates, sharing the stories, having those personal experiences with bat or ball, and certainly in the field, you can't replicate it is unique, isn't it? Cricket as the team game where you're an individual but working in partnerships. It's a very special game, and I'm extremely grateful to have had this opportunity to continue playing as long as I have, and hope there are many years still to come.
Well, thank you very much, Richard, for joining me on the Paddock and the Pavilion, and hopefully you one day will play in the England over 70s World Cup.
My goodness me, it'd be great if I can.
Thank you very much.
No, it's been a delight. Thank you very much indeed, Stephen. Thank you.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
At Bet365, we don't do ordinary. We believe that every sport should be epic. Every home run, every hit, every inning, every play. From the moments that are legendary to the ones that fly under the radar. Whether it's a walk-off grand slam or a base hit to center field. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. 21 plus only. Must be physically located in Virginia. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.